5 of the next pro Canes are going to be partaking in the scouting combine in Indianapolis this coming week. Where are these former Canes going to get drafted?
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, and writer for allhurricanes.com. Thank you so much for making us your first listen and your first watch. The Everydayers, we love you. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You guys know a valuable resource for me and everyone in the industry is Pro Football Focus, and I know a lot of fans are into this as well, the rankings. And as mentioned, Miami has 5 former players headed to the NFL Scouting Combine: Cam Kinchens, James Williams, Matt Lee, Leonard Taylor, and Javon Cohen. To help me break them down, let me bring on someone from Pro Football Focus. And you know, Brad Spielperger, that I and so many in the industry lean on the great work that you guys do. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And I want to start with James Williams because he's probably the most intriguing, maybe highest ceiling potentially out of Miami's draft prospects, because James, he played safety primarily at Miami, did line up in the box sometimes, but he's got such a massive frame. And I know when he was at the Senior Bowl, a lot of NFL coaches and scouts wanted to see him work at linebacker, and that's primarily what he did at the Senior Bowl. So what does that mean for his NFL future and for his draft status?
Yeah, he is really a fascinating prospect. Like, you don't get the 6'5", 220 pound safety all that often. I'm sure we will hear about maybe playing some linebacker in today's NFL. Obviously, we have 220 pound, 225 pound guys, and a lot of teams in recent years have moved these safety type builds to linebacker. So, yeah, I mean, look, he was an extremely high recruit for a reason. You do see a lot of that on tape. Like, he is clearly a great athlete. I wouldn't say only straight line. I think for his height, he's not a bad lateral athlete by any means, but obviously trying to click and close or move with some of the shiftier players, if he's kind of in a nickel alignment or is in charge of number 3 receivers, out of the slot because of his alignment as a safety, like there could be some complications there. But no, he is probably a guy that might go a little bit earlier. I know we're going to talk about where I think guys are going to go. I don't really know, but I think like an athlete build like him, you might go earlier than people expect because someone says, hey, there's a ball of clay here. There's an athlete here that we'd love to find out what we have, in James Williams.
So if I could press you on that, when you say earlier than people expect, I mean, because I'm thinking probably for him, just my thought, and I'm not an expert on this stuff, but, I'm thinking like maybe late day 2, high day 3 is what I was thinking for James. Around what area do you think he could go?
Yeah, so the interesting thing is we have heard a lot about how this is not perceived to be a deep class. We have the fewest underclassmen declares, I think, ever or in a very long time, probably since, some sort of rule changes where because of the COVID year, so many guys are going back with extra eligibility. And so, like, I think by the time we get to the 5th round, like you're going to be seeing teams that are trading for future picks, or maybe special teams guys will go earlier, or like you'll just see kind of a different approach. So, yeah, I think like he's listed probably, I don't know, on our big board, he's 162. Like, I think he would go earlier than that in a draft. Like you said, like maybe a round 3 guy or early round 4, just because, yeah, you don't find a whole lot of, the planet theory. There are not a lot of guys walking around with his athletic ability and skill set.
Now, Miami's got another safety heading to the NFL draft, and he was, certainly more consistent on the field than Williams was, and that's Cam Kinchens, who was pretty solid for the last 3 seasons at Miami. Did have a few busted coverage this past year, but a little bit nitpicky on that. What area do you expect Cam to go in, and are there any concerns? He's not the biggest guy out there, but he does make up for a lot of that with other skill sets.
He does. And I think he'll be one of the, early safeties off the board. And maybe Tyler Nubin at Minnesota, I think, could go ahead of him. And maybe a couple other names. But I think he will be. I don't think we're going to get a first-round safety. Maybe one, but probably not any. And then I think we start seeing kind of a run like around the middle of the 2nd to, the 3rd. So I think he's a day 2 guy. I do. I was watching some of his tape this morning. He has been on my radar, but just kind of refreshing. And like, he's a good click and close player. Like you said, he's consistent. Good ball skills. If he is near the play, he's going to either get his hands on it or try to hit a guy so hard that it knocks him off the ball. I love that about him too. He's physical. He wants to come down in the run and make plays. Even when he's kind of a deep third safety, I think he's good at redirecting. There are some times where I'd like for him to, instead of rounding out his click and close, just take one step, stop, and go forward. But I think it's because he's a good athlete. You can see he's used to being able to kind of getting away with a couple, not wasted steps, but just, less efficient paths to the football. But when he does do it, it's really, really good. And yeah, you want these DBs that can hit, and he's certainly one of those guys.
We're joined here by Brad Spielperger from Pro Football Focus, getting the lowdown and the skinny on the 5 Miami Hurricanes players who are partaking in the scouting combine and who are expected to get drafted this coming draft season. Now, Matt Lee, he plays center, and I know center is not always like a premium NFL draft position. He had, a really solid year, especially when it comes to the pass blocking grades on PFF this past year. What do you see for Matt Lee at the NFL level?
So he's interesting. I do think when you watch him, great pass blocking grades, and it's for a reason. And I even, specifically watching a team like Texas A&M early in the season, but, has guys like McKinley Jackson and really good defensive linemen. He still held up well there. I think he's a good mover. He's good with twists and stunts, at redirecting, reacting, staying on the balls of his feet and not getting kind of caught up in the muck. To me, though, he looked a little bit light in the bottom half. He probably needs to put some weight on. I think he absorbs speed to power well, insofar as he'll do some jump steps and stay in front of a guy. He mirrors very well, but I think the NFL athletes might bowl him over a little bit, at least at the outset, until he builds more of an anchor and kind of gets stronger. But, probably all things that can happen. So, yeah, he looked like a good player to me. He's a good athlete. I can tell laterally he's comfortable. I do just wonder, and again, it didn't happen at the college level, but I wonder if he needs a little bit more beef in that lower half when he transitions to playing against the true freaks of the NFL.
Are we thinking day 3, late day 3, anything like that for Lee?
It's interesting. So center we've seen go earlier and earlier. I think teams are prioritizing that spot more and more. Prospects that, again, not that these are total signals every year, but consensus big board guys in the 150s are going in the top 100. And I think you just like a Juice Scruggs last year from Penn State, for example. And I know teams ended up just being a lot higher on him than the media. But guys that just, you see the deviation between where kind of we think on the outside. And I think a lot of that is tied to, a lot of teams with good centers have been good offenses in recent years. So yeah, I think he's definitely a day 3 guy, probably late day 3, but you never know. Like I said, because it's a weak class at the back end, maybe there's a team out there that says, let's take him in the 5th, 6th because he's a good football player.
Now, what about Javon Cohen, who another one who had an excellent year at Miami, and he's got a lot on tape at Alabama from the previous couple of years where he did really well, really dominated at Miami this past year. He played left guard. What are your takes on Cohen and where he could get taken?
Yeah, I'm a fan. I think he does a good job of knowing when to punch or when to be more passive and kind of just sit back and get in his set and let the play come to him. Also, I mentioned kind of seeing Matt Lee handles twists and stunts well. It's the two of them had clearly good communication, just good IDing of kind of passing guys off and then resetting to approach their actual responsibility on a given play. So a lot of that was good to see. Also, good pass block grades, and you see why. I think he has more of kind of the NFL build. I think he is. Looks more ready to be able to handle some of the bigger bodies, and obviously interior pass rushers have been kind of exploding at the NFL level. It's become this this huge boon. So yeah, I think he's probably again late day 2, early day 3 type of player. I know our draft guru Trevor Sycamore was really high on him early on. Maybe he's fallen a little bit, but I think he's like a top 100 player still on his board. So I think he's going to be a good NFL player, a very good pass protector, which is always good to see at the college level.
And last but not least, Leonard Taylor, defensive tackle out of Miami. I view him as a high ceiling, low floor guy because, there were some inconsistencies at Miami, but when he was on, and he seems to me to have the measurables and the tangibles to be a good NFL player. But our folks who have scouted him, have they seen some of those same inconsistencies that Miami fans saw?
I think you are seeing a lot of that. He was a guy coming into the year where the range of outcomes was if he takes that next step, we're talking about a first-round player, first-round prospect. And, if not, we're talking about a guy who, and we've kind of seen this profile a bunch in recent years of players where there was that potential there. They just kind of didn't fully capitalize on it. and maybe fell later. But you still can't ignore this guy as a top 100 pick, I think, because just of what the upside could be and the flashes that we have seen. He's explosive. When he is on, there is a kind of like a bounce to his game. He's a good, I think, has more developed pass rush arsenal than a lot of interior guys we see. Like at the college level, some guys in the interior just win because of physicality and athleticism, and they just rely on that. And it's still okay. And they might get drafted because teams say, yeah, we'll teach him how to use his hands. Like I think with him, you see he has a pass rush plan. It's more just, people say he's inconsistent, and there was just kind of less continuity in how good he was on a game-to-game basis. But again, we were talking about, these 5-star recruits, these super athletic players. Someone's going to take a chance and see what they can get.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question. Is there any chance he goes undrafted, or you think someone is going to snatch him up?
Oh, definitely. No, I'd be shocked if he goes undrafted. I think he will be, I think, again, I kind of said the same thing for a bunch of these guys. But, like, bottom of day 2, probably more so like early day 3. But I mentioned we've seen, I'm trying to blank on the guy's name now. DeMarvin Leal a couple years ago was a guy who kind of reminds me of like a good interior pass rusher. I think it was Texas A&M, I want to say, but like coming into the year was the same thing. And then he went 3rd round. He's a rotational guy in Pittsburgh. Can play kind of 5-tech or kick inside and do different things. Is he a starter for them? No, but like he's a 300, 400 snap guy a year in the NFL. And can do play special teams as well. So that's kind of that we've seen that profile a bunch, but the upside I think will be enticing enough for some teams.
When you're watching all those scouting combine workouts next week, like what's your favorite? I usually, like a lot of people, I tune in for the 40 times, but is there a specific workout or event that you like the most?
Yeah, I think that probably for me it's the agility stuff. I mean, the 40 is fun to watch, no question about it. And the 10-yard split is huge for a lot of positions. For me, it's like trying to map, like there are some tests that matter a lot for, and again, like it's all, kind of speculative, but that lateral movement stuff, the agility, the short shuttle and the 3-cone, it matters, particularly in the trenches. Like for a lot of those guys, the short shuttle is huge for offensive linemen. Shows they can shuffle and move laterally, recover against good pass rushers. So those are probably my favorite, is the short shuttle and 3-cone.
I love it. Brad Spielperger. You can follow him on X at PFF_Brad. Check out the great resource that Pro Football Focus provides to us. Thank you so much, Brad, and enjoy the combine next week.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll talk to everyone next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.